Good morning all, welcome to Needles, Thread and Little Betty. My name's Mandy, Little Betty's here. I put a video on a couple of weeks ago, just a short one, just to say what I was aiming for throughout the year. And on that video it tells you that I'm going to be working through a lot of kits that have accumulated over the years, and the kits are all different. I've got needle felting, I've got crochet, knitting, slow stitch, all sorts. Today the first one I'm going to do is a quilt kit, and I've had this kit for around about 8 years. Never been open, bought it, loved it. I thought, yes, I'm going to do that. Went in the cupboard while I did other projects and stayed there ever since. So the kit that I'm going to do it's called the Dreamy Owl, and I think it's the Moon Garden Collection fabric by Free Spirit. I don't know if any of you have ever done that. I've ever done this kit. I've not seen it for sale recently, hence it's quite a few years old. But that's what my aim is for today. It's a square quilt, 162 by 162 centimetres. So kind of a lap quilt really. So let's have a look what's in the box. I'll just move you down. So we've got the instructions, and because there's a fabric panel in the middle, it shouldn't be that difficult. It should be a fairly easy project to do. Fatal words. But the instructions there aren't that many instructions, and a lot of it is putting the strips together and cutting and making the squares for around the outside of the panelling. And you've got some other quite bigger blocks as well. So hopefully it shouldn't be too difficult and it shouldn't take too long. Okay. So the fabrics. There's your middle block. I don't know how accurate the colours are on the screen, but it's kind of like pinks, purples, greens, turquoises. It's really pretty, lovely colours. The pinks really stand out as well. They're almost like neon type colours. Okay. And for the rest of the fabric, let's have a look. I've got all these beautiful Free Spirit fabrics, and because it's Free Spirit, you know that it's really good quality. I won't go through them all. You'll kind of see them as we go along anyway. That's very neon-y with the pinks and the purples. Oh, snakes there. I didn't realise it had snakes on it. That's probably how closely I looked at the box. Yeah, so there's a variety of some really lovely fabrics. Some of these will be just cut out in blocks. Some of these, and I'm assuming it's these ones because there's quite a few of these, but different colourways. Some of these will be the ones I'm imagining will be cut into the strips and then cut into small blocks. Some lovely birds there. Look at those, really pretty birds. So we've opened the box at last. So with the quilting, let's have a look how we start. I'm not going to do this step by step, doing the whole on the video, because we'll just be here for hours. What my plan is to do it in parts. Yeah, so what the next thing I'll do then, it gives all the instructions. I mean, read through the instructions first if you buy the kit, or if not, you can just do something similar with similar fabrics and just watch this video and go as you go along, because I'll give all the measurements and that as I go along. So 1/4 of an inch seam allowance throughout. That's kind of standard for quilting anyway, as you probably know. And it gives some what the abbreviations mean: half square triangles, right sides together, the usual. There's nothing here that you would not have seen in a quilt already. If you've not done quilting before, buying kits is a really good idea, because it's kind of like it's a kind of like a teaching process as it goes along. But if you've not done quilting before, just start with something fairly simple, and work your way up, because what you don't want to do is end up getting sort of frustrated with it and having to undo lots, and then it'll just put you off. But quilting itself is very therapeutic, and once you start doing it, if you enjoy it, you'll just carry on doing more and more. Quilting has been around. They say that there was evidence of the first sort of quilts found in settlements along the River Nile centuries and centuries ago. And then after that, sort of Middle Ages, there was evidence of it from China, but not in quilts as in bedding, more for use for clothing. And then it kind of got used as it developed. It kind of got used in European times more for when soldiers were going to war. They used to wear the padding layers under their armours, and that was all before people started using it for bedding and sort of decorative things like that. And I believe they first kind of bound it. The wadding, what we use as wadding today, was kind of like you use like flax and things like that to kind of pack it out. Yeah, so a little bit of history there as well. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to create some space. If you look behind me, you can see there's other projects going on. I've been a bit delayed so far in the year with things going on. So I've got projects everywhere at the moment. So what I'm going to do is go and make some space. Then I'll come back to you with the cutting. And once we've started with the cutting, we'll then finish part 1 of this video, and then we'll move on to part 2. Okay. So I'll see you in a minute. Hi, so we're back now, ready to cut the fabrics. All the fabrics have been ironed. I don't pre-wash my quilting fabric. I know some people do, and I mean it's preference really, but when I'm doing craft projects, I don't tend to pre-wash the fabric. If I'm dressmaking, then I always pre-wash, because all fabric has a slight shrinkage. Depending on the fabric, depends on how much it shrinks. And if you're dressmaking and you don't pre-wash fabric, once you've made your garment and then washed it, it's going to shrink, so it's not going to be the size that you made it for. Okay, so I haven't pre-washed this. It doesn't matter so much with craft projects, but I've just ironed all the pieces ready. I've cut out the first one, which is the panel, and that's just a 16 and a half inch square, so that's already been cut out. What I'm doing is, on the instructions, I'm just going down the list and as it tells you. I mean, it's up to you. You don't have to cut out all the fabrics first, but I tend to do that because it just makes it more organised. And then when I've cut out all the pieces that I need in each fabric, I then label the piles depending on the fabric. And on these instructions, it's got the fabrics with A, B, C, D, etc. So I'll just label pile A, pile B, etc., etc. Just makes it a lot easier once you start sewing. If you've got to sew, say, fabrics B to F and whatever way it tells you to do it, you know, you've just got to pick up those piles of fabric. Okay. So I'm ready to cut out the second piece, which is, the second piece, B and C, actually, they're both cut the same way. So this, I'll just bring the camera down. So this is fabric B, and C is the fabric with the snakes on. So these are cut in exactly the same way. So what I've done is I've trimmed off one end, and I'm just going to trim off the other end. So you have the ends that have kind of got the, from the bolt ends, not the bolt ends, but the side ends, the width ends that just sort of give you the instructions for the fabric, etc. We don't want them. They're usually got a little bit of fraying on, like this one has, and also they have the little holes in how they've been manufactured. So I'm just going to trim them off, and what I'm using is, I've got a ruler, I've got my rotary cutter, nice new blade in that, and I'm using my cutting mat. If you're using a rotary cutter, you always need a cutting mat underneath, otherwise you're going to not only ruin your table, you're going to ruin your rotary cutter as well. So my cutting mat is already marked with inches. It's inches one side, centimetres the other. A lot of quilting tends to be in inches. So I've got it inches side up, and looking at the instructions as well, it's cut in inches. So I'm just lining I've got a big ruler that I'm lining up on my cutting mat, a nice straight line, just to take that first edge off. Then once we've took the edge off, we can then look at the amount we need to cut off. So for fabrics B and C, what we need to do, it says, sorry, the dogs. I think somebody's walking by the house again. If you've seen a previous video, you know my dogs bark if someone walks past our house, although I can't see anyone out the window. But anyway, so once you've got the instructions, you will see that we need one strip of 8.5 times the width of the fabric. Okay, so this is the width of the ends that you've cut off, signifies the width of the fabric. So what I need to do is cut this so that I've got one long strip of 8.5 inches. So the way I'm going to do that is, because obviously your ruler is only so big, I'm going to fold my fabric in half. Let's just mine those out of the way. And I'm going to turn it round. Making sure I've got nice straight edges. And I'm going to pop it, because I need 8.5, and for the video purpose, so that you can see it, I'm lining it up on the 10-inch marker, so that I know if I cut it at 18.5, that's my 8.5-inch strip. So that's just because of the video purposes, because you can't see the one on the video. So I'm just lining it up straight as I can. I might need to just make it straighter and make sure that I've got it. Is just line my big ruler up on the 10-inch mark. because when you fold fabric in half, it doesn't always, it's never usually perfectly in half. So just take that slight slit away. You might have to press on a little bit harder because you're going through lots of fabric. So we know that that's on the 10 mark. And for the 8.5 inch strip, so we move it across, the ruler across now to 18.5. And if you've got 18.5 and you minus the 10, you've got 8.5. Okay. Let me just mark that up. So my ruler, I'm using my ruler on the marks on the cutting mat and nothing else. I'm just using the ruler as a straight edge, okay? Hold your ruler up still. With rulers, they do tend to slip a little bit. You can get handles and things that kind of, you have like suckers that kind of hold on, so it just makes it easier to hold. I've just got my hand. So just try and keep it nice and still. Pressing down, and that's it. Once you press, sometimes your ruler moves, like mine's just moved. But because I'm going nice and slow, I've got enough to keep it where it is. There we go. Put that to one side. So now we've got an 8.5 strip, the length, the width of the fabric, okay? And then for the next part of this fabric, we need to cut this. We need 4 8.5 inch squares, okay? So we know that these ends are right now. I've got another ruler, which you can do it with the ruler that you've just used, or I've got this ruler that has things marked out. That it has kind of slits that your rotary cutter can go through. And so what you do, and this is just really just to show you the different options that you've got, you can carry on. Again, you don't really need the marks on the cutting mat for this. You can just use the ruler for this one. So you start with the nought, and I don't know if you can see that. There's a nought there, and there's a line that goes all the way along. And this basically, it's a slit that your rotary cutter can go through. It just helps keep it steady. So if you line the edge of your fabric up on the nought, that's about it. And then moving along, you find the 8, the number 8, and the half. This ruler's in inches, but it has got the 1/2 inch slits as well. So basically, you just find your 8.5 going along. That's 8.5. You put your rotary cutter in the slit and just move it along. Just do that again. And then you've got a perfect 8.5 square. Okay. With these rulers, the good thing is you can use 2 or 3 fabrics on top of each other, so you can just do it all along. And normally that's probably what I would do, but just for the demonstration purposes, I'm doing it this way so you can see. So basically, you put your nought on the edge of your fabric again. And you know if it's lined up right because it also has lines going the other way, so you can see them lined up as well. Find the 8.5 inch slit. And you've got another perfect square. And so on and so on. So For the cutting, I mean, you do that again with the next fabric as well. And then you go on and it's got fabric D. Actually, yes, fabric D, you cut off the 8.5 inch of the width of the fabric again. Let's just straighten you up a bit. But then you cut it into rectangles. So each instruction will tell you to cut it differently. Right. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to get on with cutting out all my fabrics, and I'm going to label up my piles. And then what I'll do is come back to you for part 2 of this video. Is once all the fabrics are cut out, we'll then start sewing them together. There'll probably be some cutting as well, because I noticed that in the instructions, some of them are in strips. So you cut out your strips, and then what you tend to do is once the strips are sewn together, you tend to then cut to make your little squares. Okay, but we'll come across that in part 2 of this video. Hope you've enjoyed it. If you like what you see, please think about subscribing and giving me a thumbs up. If you press the alert button as well, it will tell you when the next video is coming along. When I'm doing parts of videos, they'll be put into a series. So if it's, say, months down the line, you haven't seen any of these and you see it, you can pick up the whole series all at once. All right, I hope that makes sense. So you take care, and I'll see you again soon. Bye.